Okay, hello everyone. Let's get right into it here. So this episode we're going to talk mostly about cryptocurrency today. I'm going to be straight up on that. We're going to try to keep the show under 60 minutes. We don't have Chuck Finley in the chat room today, but we're going to keep it under 60 minutes. I'm going to go through an epic story, and I had Marky Mark on the did a separate interview with him. That's another thing. We're going to take interviews out of the live show. We're going to keep those as just their standalone videos, so we're going to post those on this YouTube channel as standalone interviews. But I just had an epic interview a couple days ago with a guy that goes by themarkymark, and he's from a community called STEEM, which was hostilely taken over by the Tron Foundation, a guy named Justin's son. And we're going to talk about all the ramifications of that. There's some super interesting stuff in that story that kind of tells us a lot about how cryptocurrency works and why it's powerful, and what things you can do with it. So we're going to riff on that first. Then we're going to talk about we didn't get to this last time. We're going to talk about Reddit's recent cryptocurrency efforts. They're a community of 300 million people. They have 2 subreddits they're rolling it out for. It's still in beta, but they're starting to mess with it. Coinbase Wallet has some really cool updates. They released these updates to their wallet app, their cryptocurrency wallet app in March, but I just realized what they did. Some really cool stuff with interest rates. We're going to talk about just quickly Goldman Sachs is having a webinar on Bitcoin, which is a cryptocurrency, obviously. So you're starting to see more institutional. We talked about Paul Tudor Jones talking about Bitcoin. So you're starting to see more institutional interest in it, especially with the amount of money printing that's going on right now. FBI browsing history. This was a couple weeks ago. They're basically the Senate didn't allow them isn't protecting Americans from allowing the FBI to look at your browsing history without a warrant. So we're going to riff on that. I'm going to tell you why I don't really follow this stuff, because really the only thing that's going to solve this is technology, is encryption, not regulation. So I've straight kind of given up on that. Also, there's a cool, and depending on how much time, I'm really going to try to keep this under 60 minutes. Chris Dixon is a partner at A16Z, which is a venture capital firm, and he has great video that he released on cryptocurrency, talking about why it's important, why it matters, where we've been with it, and where we're going. And he compares it to other technologies, and he's showing why there's so much potential here. And I really believe him. So I'll link to all this stuff in the show notes. Let's see, what else are we going to talk? Oh yeah, and then just some different odds and ends at the end if we have time. But really try to keep this under 60 minutes. Keep it tight. Keep it loose. We're shooting from the hip here. We're just going to go nice and fast. Let's have some fun. Okay. So the most interesting thing that's happened in cryptocurrency, probably in the last, a long fucking time. We're gonna talk about that first. Okay, so, and I'm gonna try to explain it. I just learned about this a couple days ago, so I might not be getting all the details right, but I've got a general idea of what the fuck's going on here. We're gonna talk through it. I'm gonna try to explain it, even for people that aren't necessarily familiar with cryptocurrency. I encourage you, even if you're not interested in cryptocurrency, I get it. I get the hype. I get all that. I get people talking about the price, and there's a lot of scammers in this space. There's a lot of people that only talk about the price. The price is one of the least interesting things about cryptocurrency right now. I don't care the price of Bitcoin. I don't care the price of all these fucking coins. What's interesting, I mean, the price does matter, but what matters even more, what's more interesting, is the actual technology, the things you can actually build on these platforms. So I'm going to talk about a cryptocurrency that I didn't know much about until a few days ago, actually. It's called STEEM. Okay, so I'm going to tell a little story about this and see if I can explain it. So I just had themarkymark. I did an interview with him 2 days ago. It was fucking epic. I reached out to him on Twitter. He was a big popular user in the STEEM community. What happened was, they took that community and this is why cryptocurrency why it's so interesting. They took that community and they did a fork. They moved it elsewhere because they didn't like who had gained control of it. So this is why cryptocurrency is so interesting. So think of it this way. Think of if the users didn't like what Twitter was doing, if the users of Facebook didn't like what Facebook was doing, if the users of YouTube didn't like what YouTube were doing, they could literally keep all the same stuff, all the YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and then fork it and just form a new community based on that, with all the other view counts, all the other likes, all the other subscriptions, everything's still there. They just branched off. That's why cryptocurrency is so interesting. And it doesn't just matter, and I'll get to STEAM, I'll get to the specifics in a moment. We've seen this with other cryptocurrencies too. Ethereum early on, there's something called Ethereum Classic. Those two communities split. And this is actually a good thing. This is a good, very important thing that cryptocurrencies allow you to do. If the community members don't like the direction that it's going, boom, that community or part of that community can go form their own and branch off of it, or rather fork off of it, which is a very, very powerful thing that I think that this story with the STEEM and Marky Mark and what him and some of his people were doing, what they were able to do, and they formed HIVE because they forked off of STEEM because they didn't like what it was doing. This is a very, 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 very interesting thing, and that's, I think, an underappreciated thing in cryptocurrency in general is your ability not just to not have to trust a third party, not just to not have to worry about authentication of the nodes, and any node can participate in the network, and it's all fully transparent, it's all fully open source. You can see every transaction, you know exactly what's going on, which has its pros and cons, of course. But you can also then fork the community if you don't like the direction of it. Okay. So if you're not interested in cryptocurrency, I urge you to just listen for a few minutes here, because I'm going to try to do a speed round under 60 minutes. I want to finish by 1 p.m. Even before that, I'd like to finish by 12:55 because I want to keep these bite-sized. I want to be mindful of your time, and I think adding the constraint will force me to really cover the highlights and give you the dose that you need in the time that you have. The dose that you need in the time that you have. That might be the new byline. Charlie, write that down, Beast. Okay. So here's the deal. Okay, so here's how I'm going to walk through the timeline of how all this started. So this goes back to February 24th, 2020. So, quick background. Okay, STEEM is a cryptocurrency. It's a blockchain, and the purpose, different cryptocurrencies have different purposes. The main one, the most popular one is Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is an application-specific blockchain. It serves pretty much one purpose, and that is to be a store of value. And if you look at the Bitcoin white paper, which I actually have it on my desktop right here, which is a super interesting read, just look up Bitcoin white paper. It's the initial page describing Bitcoin that was released, I think, in 08, 09, something like that, over 10 years ago. And it was initially a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. That's the title right now. And it's kind of shifted from that to be more of a store of value, given the trend. I don't see, we'll see how it evolves. There's these different things that are being built on top of it, so-called kind of layer 2 technologies. There's things like the Lightning Network that allows transactions to be a lot faster, because right now at Bitcoin, it takes a while for a transaction to go through, at least 10 minutes before it's verified on the block, and you really want to wait longer than that to make sure that it's actually certifiably done. Okay, so Bitcoin, everyone knows Bitcoin. It's used to store value. You send it to people's wallets. They can send it. They can transact it all over the world. Blah blah blah. Very interesting stuff. But there's other cryptocurrencies that serve other purposes. And this is why cryptocurrency is so interesting, because different ones can serve different purposes. Okay, so STEEM is a cryptocurrency that's dedicated. It's a blogging platform essentially. It's a platform to allow creators to get paid for their work, basically. So they can different websites can build on top of STEEM, and when you contribute to the STEEM platform, people can vote up your content. Think of it like Reddit. They can vote up your content, and you get compensated based on that, right? Because there's a value of the STEEM token, and then you can sell that token. Okay, so STEEM is the general purpose blockchain. Now there's something called STEEM.it, steam.it, which is a kind of think of it as a front end. Think of it as just a website that built on top of the STEEM platform. So they're two separate things. So the STEEM blockchain, and then there's STEEM.it, which is the actual. Okay, so Tron is run by this guy named Justin Sun, who's a bit of a snake oil salesman in the space. That's all I'll say about it. So that happened. Okay, there were concerns. There were concerns with that, and the reason there were concerns with that was because STEEM.it, not STEEM, STEEM.it, this platform had 20% of all the tokens that had been distributed on the STEEM blockchain in general. And the reason that they had gotten those tokens was kind of an act of good faith. It was the STEEM.it platform was gonna grow and help grow the STEEM blockchain. as well, and they were given these tokens to help do that. Now, that's a very big security risk because the way that Steem works is the more tokens you have, basically. Now, I might be missing some of the details here, but so I'm keeping it high level. The more coins you have, the more tokens you have on that network, the more power over the network that you have. So what happened was Steemit was acquired. And Justin Sun thereby got 20% of basically the voting power of the Steem blockchain. This was totally a weakness that people knew about. That they knew that there were these 20% of the Steem tokens were there. Justin Sun acquired it. Okay, let's keep going with the timeline. March 20th, HIVE launched. They had concerns about the fact that this outsider came in. Think of it as any social network, right? What if Facebook, or what if Twitter had an outside investor that came in and started making changes, and that you could then pick up and leave, and you could fork that community? That's exactly what the HIVE community did. So shout out to the HIVE community. I interviewed Marky Mark, and that's on HIVE, and there's a lot of people in the HIVE community that's gotten a lot of love, and I appreciate that. It's got like 250 views on YouTube right now, which is pretty. It's like one of the highest viewed interviews right now, which is epic, which I'm really pumped about. The HIVE community, great group of people. I'm excited to see what they do. So anyway, they forked. They did a hard fork from the Steem community because they didn't like the direction it was going. Okay, so that happened on March 20th. On April 3rd or April 4th, and I encourage you to look, if you're interested in this, look at the interview I did with Marky Mark. We talk a lot about this stuff. He knows it a hell of a lot more than I do, and he's first person. He talks through it. He was there. He experienced this, and he had, let's see, about $40,000 equivalent stolen on the Steem network. Basically C. So on April 3rd, April 4th, there was hard fork 22888, which had major accounts frozen, that people that had, these were people that had supported this HIVE hard fork. Basically, the people that said, yo, we're going to form a new community. Okay, then on May 20th, there's another Steem hard fork, which seizes the Steem from HIVE supporters. So there was more action done by the new controllers of Steem. And you say, okay, well, I thought the whole point of cryptocurrency was someone couldn't come in here and do this. And yes, that is true, but there are cases when there are weaknesses, and this was a weakness in the Steem platform where this was allowed to happen. It's absolutely a weakness, but where the strength is that they were allowed to fork and prevent these people with this new voting power that had acquired it. They forked the community. This is science fiction shit. This is unbelievable it blew my mind the more I was learning about this, because that's why I tweeted at him. I was like, dude, you got to come on. I got to riff with you. Okay, so May 20th, and then an anonymous actor. So the funds that were seized from the people on the Steem on Steemit that had supported the HIVE fork, an anonymous actor. Those funds were seized and sent to an account. I think it was called Community 321. That Community 321 account then sent it to Bitrex, which is a cryptocurrency exchange, an exchange where you put your cryptocurrency on and you can buy and sell different cryptocurrencies. It sent it to an exchange and said, yo, Bitrex, you deal with this. Okay, you deal with it. This is crazy. And these funds were stolen. These funds were stolen, and you got to give them back to the rightful owners. Then on May 21st, Bitrex announced that it was not going to distribute the funds to the original owners, and it was put in a tough spot because they're supposed to look at it's not up to cryptocurrency exchanges to handle fights within a cryptocurrency community, right? They want to be hands off. They're supposed to be a third party. They don't want to get involved, and they didn't. They said this isn't the way. Wasn't the consensus of the Steem platform. And we're not gonna we're gonna fook and stay out of it. So it's a very 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 interesting development there, and it's still unfolding. But the most amazing thing is that when HIVE forked, the value, all the tokens that the previous version of Steem had, all the users that had, they forked and basically said, this new person that came in, Justin Sun, they basically said, you're not going to get any tokens in this new fork. You're not going to get any voting power in this new fork. They forked and said, boom, we're going to go. We're pilgrims. We're going to start our own world. We're going to start our own Fukin world, and you're not going to have any part of it, which is an amazingly powerful thing that you can do. And they did that, and the best part is HIVE tokens the value of them is trading higher than STEEM tokens, which is crazy. They forked, and they then created a higher value blockchain, which is absolutely a higher value platform and blockchain, which is truly a success story. So it's absolutely crazy. You got hostile takeovers. You got a white knight, also called like a Robin Hood, that came in there and tried to give the funds back to the previous Steam users, even though they'd already went to Hive. It's absolutely crazy. Now there's talks of a class action lawsuit going on, and the CEO of Binance, I believe it was Binance, yeah, definitely Binance. He chimed in and said he had a blog post on it. And one of the things he said is it's funny with this class action lawsuit stuff. Isn't the whole point of blockchain that you're supposed to avoid stuff like that? Isn't that the point? And yeah, on some level, I think he has a point. So very interesting development. Again, this goes back to February 24th. This isn't even a new thing, but it's gone over the course of several months. But the main thing I want you to take from this, is the fact that a community was able to create a new home because they didn't like what it was currently doing. So I want to, why this is so powerful, and you haven't heard of HIVE, you haven't heard of STEEM it probably, if you're not following this stuff, and even if you are, it's not one of the bigger cryptocurrencies, but this is one of the core tenets of cryptocurrency in general, that you can take you can fork it and you can form a new community. You've seen this. There's plenty of forks of Bitcoin. There's Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold. When there's infighting in the community, it's a very elegant way of settling it. With something like Twitter or Facebook, if there's infighting there, one person gets control of Twitter.com. One person gets control of all the tweets, all the accounts, et cetera, et cetera. With cryptocurrency, you can fork it. So you can say, yo, we're not happy with this anymore. We're going to create our own world, and we're going to go do that. And it's absolutely fascinating that they did that. This is not possible with a thing like Twitter or Facebook. It's just not. If you don't like the current management or you don't like the way they're doing things, the switching costs are insane. Imagine all the history of all the posts, all the likes, all the followings you built up. Imagine if you didn't like what Facebook was doing, you could just fork it. Boom, we're going to start our own. It's truly fascinating. This is one of the real value propositions I see in cryptocurrency networks. It gives power back to the users in a lot of ways. And we're going to talk. So that's the rundown on that. I'm going to shift gears here, still on cryptocurrency. We're going to talk about Reddit's cryptocurrency effort. So Reddit community of about, as of 2019, 300 million monthly active users. It's a huge community. It's the biggest community that is starting to dip its toes in cryptocurrency. Now, what did they do? What have they done? They recently announced a beta. It's just a beta, so it's not using it's on the Ethereum blockchain. They announced a beta for two of their subreddits, the Fortnite subreddit and the cryptocurrency subreddit, to create their own, basically have their own cryptocurrencies. Now, what can you do with these cryptocurrencies? Well, some of the things you can do is you could vote on on community governance. So you can vote on what the subreddit does. Things like that, and it's all in beta. I've played a little bit with it, but the Reddit app is now an Ethereum wallet. They had really cool illustrations on how it all works. Really good at onboarding users, explaining why something like this is important. These tokens are tied to your reputation, so they're tied to how much you contribute to the network. So they're tied to. So if you're super popular on Fortnite or r/Fortnite or r/cryptocurrency, you then get more of the cryptocurrency. So there's one it's called bricks for Fortnite, and the cryptocurrency for r/cryptocurrency is called moons. Now, why is this a big deal? It's like, who cares? No one's asking for this. This is looking for a problem that it doesn't need solving. Well, I'll tell you why. And Reddit does an excellent job of explaining this in their initial onboarding for the users. And they say this, the internet used to be an open world, a new land. They have a kind of cute little cartoons covering it. It's pretty epic illustrations. But it used to be a new land. When it was first coming online, people would just spin up servers and people would share, and it was all beautiful. And now it's dominated largely by big players, by the Googles of the world, by the Facebooks of the world, by the Twitters of the world, by the Microsofts of the world. It's now dominated by big players. And these networks like your Twitters, your Facebooks, these social media networks, have their users, for lack of a better phrase, by the balls. They can do basically whatever they want, or rather not whatever they want. They can do a hell of a lot. They have a wide margin for error because the switching costs are too great. Now, we talked about why it's powerful to be able to switch and be able to fork from communities. It gives users a lot more control. So why is this Reddit cryptocurrency interesting? Well, here's why. And again, this is all in beta, and they haven't rolled this out to 300 million users. It's only to these people in these subreddits, but it's still a huge step for cryptocurrency in general, which I'm super bullish on. I really believe that this is the most overlooked technological innovation that is not as already happened. I mean, it's already happened, but it's continuing to happen. There's more and more every single day, and it's amazing to follow this space. I feel like I'm in the fucking gold rush right now, and it's legendary. And I'm not talking about the money. I'm not talking about the prices of this stuff. I'm talking about the actual technology here and the things you can do with it. Okay, so let's go back to Reddit. Okay, so we're still all new to this. We're still trying to figure out what this world looks like. But something you could do with the Reddit token, right, is you could then, if something happened to the r/cryptocurrency subreddit or the Fortnite subreddit, and like you didn't like what the moderators were doing, well, you could take that cryptocurrency and then you could use it as proof that you were person X on, let's say you're on the r/cryptocurrency and you were very active on that subreddit and you posted a lot, and then moderators came in and screwed you. Well, you could say, yo, guys, let's get out of here. Let's form our own community, and you can use the moons, they call it moons, that you can use the moons that you gathered on that cryptocurrency to go form a new community. Now, what does this actual transition look like? It's a little hand wavy. I don't know. Maybe you form a new fucking website and you switch to something and you can prove that you were this user and you have this reputation and you have this post history, et cetera, et cetera. Now, a lot of the stuff on these subreddits is not on the blockchain, right? So you can't just fork it and go, it's not. This is where I'm talking a few years out, maybe even a decade out. Hell, I don't know before we're going to actually see, a major platform be able to do something like this. Now, also, it's not in Reddit's best interest, at least right now, or Twitter's or Facebook's, to encourage users to be able to fork it and form their own community and handle their own governance and stuff like that. But it's still an extremely interesting thing that they're even starting to dip their toes in it. So I'm really curious to see how that works out. I'm super fucking pumped about it, and I really believe there's something here. Okay, let's talk about Coinbase Wallet for a second. Coinbase is one of the most trusted exchanges and the cryptocurrency exchanges in the world. They're based in San Francisco. I don't know if they're like the top by volume. I don't think they're the top. I think Binance might be the top one by volume in terms of how much trading actually goes on. But it's a little hard to trust the reported numbers on some of these things. But they're I really like what they're doing in this space. They have a lot of interesting products. So Coinbase Wallet, and I'm going to link to this blog post, but they had a super interesting update to, again, stay on the line, people. If you're not interested in cryptocurrency, I'm about to blow your mind right now. Let's stay on the line because we're going to talk through these things because there's really important things going on in the space right now. And I really think it's the single most overlooked thing happening right now, period. Maybe climate change is up there, but everyone talks about climate change. At least they pay lip service to it. We're not fucking doing shit. We're not doing shit to solve it right now as a species. We're not, straight up. But cryptocurrency is something no one even talks about. The only time they do talk about it is when someone's recording a fucking picture of a live graph of the Bitcoin price on MSNBC. It's a total joke. It blows my mind that mainstream publications are not covering this. Like in the slightest. The only time you hear about Bitcoin is when something bad happens or the price pumps or et cetera, et cetera. It's used for drugs, blah, blah, blah. But there are some super interesting things here. Okay. Coinbase Wallet. It's one of the best wallet apps, and it's not open source, which always scares me with these things, because when you're talking about giving your funds over to someone, you really want to you want the software to be open source. Now, this is something you wouldn't expect the Bank of America app to be open source. You wouldn't expect a Bank of America to show how their servers work. Absolutely not. But in the cryptocurrency space, open source is the default. There's a lot of open source wallets. The blockchains are open source. You can see everything. It's very transparent. You can audit this stuff. You can know how it works. So it does worry me a little bit that it's not open source. But it has a really cool feature they released in March, and I just opened up the Coinbase Wallet app yesterday, literally. And I was looking at it, I was like, holy shit. Here's the feature they added. For your cryptocurrency in your Coinbase Wallet, you can have Bitcoin in there, you can have Ethereum tokens. I think those are the two main. I think they support other any ERC20 token on the Ethereum blockchain, which means any token released on Ethereum. You can have on it. I don't know what else it supports. It probably supports other stuff besides that and Bitcoin. I don't know off the top of my head, but what they did is they make it very transparent. You look at your wallet balances, you look at it, and you can gain interest on your cryptocurrency holdings. Okay, so you can look at, and this is specifically, I think, only with Ethereum tokens. But you can see if you have a stable coin in there. We've talked about stable coins on the show before. They're a coin that's pegged to something. A lot of them, the most popular ones, are pegged to the US dollar. So in my case, I had like $10 of USDC, which is one of the stable coins. And it shows me very transparently two different it shows me two options on how I can gain interest on that cryptocurrency. It shows me the interest rate, and in a matter of clicks, a couple taps, without creating an account, without doing anything, I can transfer those funds to another interest-bearing contract and earn more interest. So let's put this in perspective. Imagine if your savings account, your savings account, which interest rates are super low right now, but imagine if you were earning 0.1% and you saw another bank that was offering 0.6%. It's kind of a pain in the ass to switch. You got to make a new account on this thing, then you got to transfer the funds. All in all, it's going to take a week at least. And now you've got two separate accounts. The beautiful thing of cryptocurrency, the beautiful thing of these Ethereum smart contract platforms is in 2 clicks. I can move my money from something that's earning me less interest to something that's earning more interest. They have a couple ones on there, DYDX and Compound, which I had a developer from Compound Finance on the podcast. You look at No Gradient Riff's channel for that. It was a super interesting conversation. But in a couple clicks, you can move that money to a higher interest bearing account. Now the question, how are you earning interest on this stuff? Sounds like snake oil. Well, what's amazing is there's smart contract platforms. And their the Ethereum platform has dApps, decentralized applications, built on top of it that allow you to basically loan out your money. So you can loan out your money so other users can do things with it. And the beauty of it is when you loan your money out, it's non-custodial. Compound Finance, in the example of them, they never have control of your funds ever. They can't take them from you. They can't seize them from you. And all of this is auditable. It's all open source. You can see this. So you can go to Compound, for example, and you can take a loan out of US dollars. So imagine if you have a lot of Bitcoin, imagine if you have a lot of Ether, and you want to get US dollars back. So you lock up Ether in the smart contract, and you get US dollars back. So remember, I put US dollars on the platform, boom. Then that allows person B to give Ether as collateral. You have to give up a collateral. And then that allows you to take my US dollars out and do whatever you want with it. But it's super fucking interesting that you can do this. It's a matter of just a couple clicks. It's fascinating, and none of these, they don't have control of your funds. That's the most amazing thing. When you have a Bank of America account, now granted, I've got I use a Bank of America checking account. I'm not saying burn down the banks, all this stuff. You can't trust them. They have a pretty good track record in terms of you give them your money, it's not going to go away. But the crazy thing is that I think a lot of people don't realize that when you give your bank money, when they have money, when you see I have $1,000 in my checking account. If you look at that and you see, okay, I have $1,000. That money is not yours. That is an IOU. That it's not actual US dollars. That's basically a number in Bank of America's server. Oh, damn, a bug just got caught in that spider's web. Oh my God, nature. Oh no, the spider's going for it. That's insane. Now, Bank of America, they have a number on their server, on one of their servers that says you have $1,000. When you have cryptocurrency, that cryptocurrency is actually yours. You own it. You have the keys. So no one else can do anything with it except for you. You don't have to. It takes away that level of trust that you have when you go to a Bank of America. Now, granted, in the United States, we can trust our banking system that we have FDIC insurance. You don't have. There's not. We're in one of the biggest economic collapses since the Great Depression, and you didn't see a run on the banks. People weren't running on the banks. To go get their money out because they thought banks were going to fail. That's not a worry, and it's a good thing it's not a worry. But it's crazy the world we're used to with the conventional banking system. Of transfer times being extremely slow. Of if one bank has another savings rate that's higher, it's a pain in the ass to go transfer it over there. It's a nightmare. So I really like the features I'm seeing with Coinbase Wallet. And still, dude, I'll be straight up on you. Do I think you should take money out of your Bank of America checking account and put it in Coinbase Wallet because you can earn about 1% interest, which is more than you can on a lot of these savings accounts? No, I don't think you should put all your money there because these things. This is all new. It's not compound finance is a new thing. It's all quite new. So I'm not saying go bet the farm on this and do anything like that. What I am saying though is that there are, the first wave of, Bitcoin came along. The first wave was more around speculation. It's more around, okay, who knows what the hell this thing is going to do. My point is now we're starting to move to a place where these cryptocurrencies are actually starting to solve real problems, which they weren't doing before. Well, I think Bitcoin was solving a real problem, and it's an absolute masterpiece, and you should read the white paper, and it's amazing, and I love it. But it's a little more hand-wavy, whereas now you're seeing things like stable coins. I can send a US dollar anywhere in the world for 2 cents fees, and it'll transfer like that. As long as you have a cell phone and an internet connection, I can send you money anywhere in the world. It's absolutely crazy. Now, if you want to convert that to your local government currency, that's a whole nother thing. That's again when you're going back to the regular banking system, it becomes a nightmare. But my point is there are things you can do now that you could not do before. There's things on the horizon. We've talked about prediction markets. There's Augur V2 is about to be released. I'm very excited about that. There are things on which is it's a prediction market, allows you to bet on the outcome of any event, and you can trust it more, and it's lower fees than some of these centralized offerings. So it's absolutely, I really think, I'll tell you this. The difference between someone at A16Z said this. I really like the content they put out, but they said, I think it's Mark Andreessen. He said the difference between being wrong on the timing and being wrong, there is no difference. So, and his point there is when you invest in a startup, a lot of the startups, for example, in 2000, 1999, before the web fucking, before the bubble burst, the .com bubble burst, a lot of those ideas are now being created now. Think of your Instacarts. Think of your pets.com. These were all ideas that went bankrupt because why? The world was not ready for it. The internet wasn't fast enough. Things were not good enough. That people weren't used to it yet. There was a lot of opportunity, but no one made any money off a lot of those companies. But those same ideas are now being built now. Why? Because we have phones, faster internet connection. People are used to using these services, and now a whole new wave is starting. So I'll tell you this: I don't know the timeline of how quickly we could be in the Netscape era of cryptocurrency, which, Netscape was one of the first internet browsers. And you don't hear about Netscape today. In the same way that in 15 years, we may not even talk about Bitcoin and Ethereum anymore. There might be completely new technologies. This might take a decade before large user adoption actually takes off. I'm talking about in the billions of users. So, but there are use cases now that are starting to develop, and it's super, super interesting. So that's why I'm very, very interested in this space. And again, on this show, we like to think in decades. What are the things that are going to be important in a decade? We've talked a lot about climate change. I've talked a lot about cryptocurrency. These are the things that I think, and especially cases where where there's a huge disconnect. And I love talking about these things where there's a huge disconnect between what's actually happening or what the mainstream media is covering. I love that. As soon as you say mainstream media, you just sound like you have a tinfoil hat on. But there's not even mainstream media. Just what's talking about at the dinner table. What are the things? What's in the zeitgeist? People aren't really talking about cryptocurrency. It's a very specific world that people talk about cryptocurrency in. But I really think there's something special here. Okay, let's go on quickly. And we're going to talk about the FBI getting your browsing history. Okay. Goldman Sachs on May 27th is hosting a webinar. It's called this, Implications of Current Policies for Inflation, Gold, and Bitcoin. So I'm going to keep this short. All I want to say is there is institutional interest in Bitcoin like never before. You're getting, Paul Tudor Jones, an investor, was talking about Grayscale, which is a custodial cryptocurrency investment platform. Well, actually, it doesn't hold the actual cryptocurrency, but it allows institutions to invest in cryptocurrency, and they have about $2.5 billion assets under management. Now, that's not very much. I'll fully admit that, but you're seeing a lot of increased interest. 2 years ago, it wasn't even close to that. I don't even think Grayscale was around, or maybe it was, but it was very small. It was in the single-digit millions. Now, you're really starting to see the interest come in. You're getting Goldman Sachs to take it seriously. It's absolutely incredible that something that was released by an anonymous group, Satoshi Nakamoto. It's probably he or she, or they say we in the Bitcoin white paper, that initial white paper that described the protocol. So I think it's probably a group of people. Doesn't matter. It's even better that we don't know who it is because it allows the platform to thrive. But it's crazy. It's something that was released open source, boom, for the world, and just a bunch of fucking people that turned their computers on and started mining this stuff is now being addressed by governments and big banking institutions. It's absolutely insane. So I'm very, very fascinated in this. Okay, 24 minutes to go, 23 minutes actually, even less than that. Let's keep it tight. Let's keep it loose. Okay, FBI browsing history. Okay, so I'll tell you this. So there was something in the Senate recently. Honestly, I didn't even follow up on I should start with the details first. I'll start with the details before I just lift into the stratosphere. Okay. An effort to protect Americans' browsing and search histories from warrantless government surveillance failed by a single vote in the Senate on Wednesday. The privacy measure, sponsored by Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon and Steve Daines of Montana, got 59 votes, 1 vote fewer than was needed to overcome a filibuster. The vote was over a section of federal surveillance law that was originally part of the USA Patriot Act in 2001. That provision, known as Section 215, gave the FBI the power to obtain any tangible thing, including books, records, papers, documents, and other items, without a warrant. Without a warrant. I'm not a tinfoil hat guy. I really don't like getting people riled up unless I have to. Our founding fathers are rolling in their fucking graves right now. Without a warrant, the FBI can surveil its citizens. This is a fundamental right that has been stripped from us. And frankly, it's extremely sad. And we already knew this, though. That's why I don't think this is a big deal. What the Snowden leaks revealed was that the NSA, that our government was lying to the American people, was lying to Congress. Senator Wyden was also involved in that. He was the one that interviewed General Clapper, who's run the NSA at the time, or high up in the NSA at the time, and he said, "We do not do bulk data collection on millions of Americans." That turned out to be a lie. Snowden revealed the United States government was lying to the American people. I think this is something that also doesn't get enough attention. I'll continue. The provision was only supposed to be used for foreign intelligence investigations, not ordinary criminal investigations. Civil liberties groups have long criticized it for its breadth and weak judicial oversight. Section 215 expired back in March, and the Senate is working on legislation to reauthorize it. The current Senate draft prohibits the FBI from using the provision to obtain cell phone location data, though the Supreme Court has already ruled that this information is constitutionally protected, so this may have little practical impact. So here's my thing with all this, and I honestly, I don't even, when there's new privacy stuff that's being discussed in Congress, I don't follow it, because why? Here's my attitude, and I want to quote Edward Snowden here. Here's what he said recently. He tweeted this: "If you ever wonder where we're at on the dystopia scale, consider that it's normal to believe the government is spying on you and crazy to believe that they're not. Think of those conversations you've had around the dinner table. Think of the times you've joked with friends like, oh, well, the government knows everything. Oh, yeah. And you know what? You're right. That's absolutely an incredible thing that it's taken for granted that the government can look at everything in your Google account, everything on your iPhone, any text messages, unless you're using an end-to-end encrypted application. Signal by Open Whisper Systems is the gold standard here, but there's other ones like WhatsApp. Mark Zuckerberg gets a lot of shit, but delivering end-to-end encryption to over 2 billion people. He's done more for civil liberties than a lot of fucking politicians out there, than any politician, I would argue. It's a fundamental right to be able to communicate with someone without the government being able to snoop on you. So I'll tell you this. There's trade-offs to all this stuff. And, you know, you can say, well, shouldn't the government be able to, get access to some of this stuff in case there's criminal activity going on? I'm talking, terrorism. I'm talking about child porn. I'm talking about all these, these really, really bad things that these encrypted networks allow people to they allow you to do whatever you want on them. So I'll say this. That Pandora's box with the Snowden leaks, the government had their chance. They showed that they didn't care whether you're doing something illegal. They didn't care whether they need to get a warrant. It didn't matter. They were collecting all this information on you no matter what, carte blanche. And it's absolutely absurd. So this is why I don't care what the government says about regulation. I don't care if they made it illegal. If they already lied to us. If they said, yo, you need a warrant and we're going to pass this beautiful privacy regulation bill, blah, 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 fuck them. Fuck them. It doesn't matter. This is why I don't care what they're going to say. They've already lied to us. These institutions that were sworn to uphold our civil liberties have absolutely destroyed them. And now I'm not saying that the NSA was doing, or the FBI is doing. They're using this information to screw with Americans. I'm just saying the fact that they're able to get carte blanche access to this stuff is insane. So what do I focus on? The only thing that's going to bail us out of this is not regulation. It's not a fucking politician. It's technology. It's technology like end-to-end encryption. I use WhatsApp, and I use Signal, and I use Telegram. I use apps that are as much as possible that are end-to-end encrypted, and I don't back them up anywhere. That's the only way that I know that my messages will not be looked at. And you've seen Apple stand up to the FBI with some of this stuff. And one of the great things that Apple said was, they said, listen, the government has more information on you than ever in the history, of fucking governing. They have more information than ever in order to prosecute criminals. They've never had this much information on you with the amount of information your phone generates and all this stuff. There's no excuse on why Americans shouldn't be able to still be able to communicate privately through end-to-end encryption. And with this browser stuff, your ISP, your internet service provider, they're giving away all. The government I basically assume everything I have, and it's sad. It's extremely sad that anything I put on Google Drive or anything I communicate that's not end-to-end encrypted, where I don't own the keys, I assume the government can have access to it, and I assume that they will get access to it, and that's extremely sad. So what's the only thing I think that's going to save us is encryption, is things like end-to-end encryption, things like Signal, things like WhatsApp. These are things. These are the only things that are going to protect our civil liberties. That's also why I'm very, very interested in cryptocurrency. I'm very surprised that, a lot of people talk about, data protection, blah, blah, blah. And Europe had their general data protection, privacy, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. It doesn't matter. The only thing that's really going to protect you is you having control over your own data, verifiably so. And that's what the cryptocurrency doesn't do that yet. But we have the building blocks here for a platform where you have the keys. Encryption is a beautiful thing. If you have the keys, not the best supercomputers in the world cannot crack that encryption. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I think we're going to move to a world with cryptocurrency where somehow you hold your keys. And anytime there's going to be a Google or a Microsoft, or maybe there's going to be a new company, or maybe it's Google or Microsoft, where you have to give your key, and then it gives you access to all your files, all your email, blah, blah, blah. But not even Google on their servers can read your stuff. Not even Google employees, Microsoft employees, Facebook employees can look at your stuff. And to be fair, Google has Google Duo, which is end-to-end encrypted, not open source, so you can't trust it 100%. But I take them at their word on this, actually. And same with WhatsApp. It's not open source, but I do believe that it's end-to-end encrypted. And there's a lot of proof with that. When there was lynchings in India based on fake news that was spread on WhatsApp, WhatsApp said, "Yo, we can't stop it on here." You see them on Facebook, the platform. It's like whack-a-mole. They're deplatforming people. They're silencing people. Same with YouTube. But on WhatsApp, they cannot do that because they don't know what is actually being sent. Not even the Facebook employees know. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So I really, the government fucking lying to us. It's not, excuse me. These bureaucracies lied. It wasn't the government. They lied to these senators. They lied to Congress. They lied to the American people. The Congress, our representatives, our senators, they represent us, we the people, and these bureaucracies lied to them. And they lied to us. So I'm not here saying, oh, all politicians are bad or anything like that. I'm just saying that the Pandora's box has been opened, and I personally, I don't trust that my data. It's not even that the government could get access to your information. It's also hackers. You cannot trust unless it's end-to-end encrypted. You hold the keys. You can't trust that a hacker or a government or a terrorist group or anything could get access to that data. It's a security thing. It's not just about keeping things from the government. It's about keeping things from everyone. It's about having the right to communicate privately. That's also why I'm so interested in cryptocurrency. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about, I can talk on this stuff all day, honestly. I think honestly, it's sad, and I think the founding fathers are rolling in their fucking graves. They fucking formed a more perfect union over here because they didn't like what the power of the government, what they were doing, and now our government we've given our government the keys to our kingdom, the keys to look at everything, and it's sad. But I'm hopeful because there's technology that can bail us out of this. There's verifiable technology where we don't have to trust anyone. We can just trust math. We can trust science. We can trust encryption, and as long as we can trust that, absolute truths in the universe, it doesn't matter what what politicians say. It doesn't matter what the FBI is doing. And yes, and let me just say this: there are trade-offs to this. It'll allow people to do criminal acts. Absolutely, that's true. That's a trade-off I'm willing to make. That's a trade-off I think is better for humanity overall. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about. Let's go back to crypto networks and why they matter a little bit. Again, Chris Dixon, and then we have 13 minutes, and I'm going to try to blow through this here. Okay, so there's this epic post. If you're interested in crypto currency, Chris Dixon has an amazing post, has an amazing video presentation on it, and I'm going to link to it. Again, I'll link to it in the show notes. This is also released as a podcast. Search No Gradient wherever podcasts are available. In the podcast notes, that's where I link to everything. And I also link to those podcast notes at the bottom of the YouTube description. Go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, people. Thank you. Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. Chris Dixon, I think he's one of the greatest minds in cryptocurrency right now in terms of the way he talks about it. And the way how he makes it accessible to people. So here, let's just start with generally. What's a blockchain? Let's riff on this for a second. A blockchain is a virtual computer that runs on top of a network of physical computers that provides strong, auditable, game theoretic guarantees that the code it runs will continue to operate as designed. Okay, and he says this, the result, trust guarantees. The game theory of nodes plus consensus mechanism provides trust guarantees to anyone using it. Users, developers, creators, businesses, other computers or services that no previous computer architecture could provide. These trust guarantees means that the rules of the system, and I want you to pay attention to this part, the rules of the system can't change without due process defined by the system's governance protocols. Don't be evil. Famously, Google's old their old motto becomes can't be evil. And why is it can't be evil? Because we can look at the code, we can look what the blockchain is doing, we can look at these smart contracts, and we know verifiably what they are doing. These trust guarantees also enable the credible creation of new computing primitives such as digital money, digital goods, smart contracts, decentralized organizations, etc. There are very, very interesting things happening in this space, and there's a whole world that Bitcoin has opened up, and now given birth to. There's all these other cryptocurrencies going on, so there is some really, really cool stuff, and I encourage you to watch Chris Dixon's video, and honestly, there's a lot that needs to be done. Let's be straight up. Even if everyone today, right now, said, let's do this whole cryptocurrency thing, let's do it. The technology is not ready. We couldn't replace Visa. We could not replace our authentication, overnight with fucking. Well, actually, maybe authentication we could solve. Yeah, that's actually a solved problem. But there's a lot of problems. Like you can't. store all your data, back up all your file. You can't, the cloud can't, cryptocurrency networks can't handle this storage of terabyte or petabytes and petabytes of data. There's still things, though there are things being built that address those problems, but they're just the technology still needs to progress. So he also talks about in his presentation, he says this: like all early computers, blockchain computers have strengths and weaknesses. So early PCs, what are the strengths? He says they're smaller and cheaper. The weaknesses, they're slow, expensive, and the user experience isn't very good. The first Apple II or something cost $5,000, and all you could do was code on it. It was expensive, it was slow, and you couldn't do much with it. Early smartphones, the strengths: portable, GPS, camera, cellular connectivity. The weaknesses: performance, price, inputs like the keyboard. Remember when touchscreens came out? A lot of people don't know. People were like pissed off when the iPhone was like, oh, you can't type on this thing, blah blah blah, it's slow, blah blah blah. The first iPhone was dog. In a lot of ways, it was innovative in a lot of ways, but it was also bad in a lot of ways. But guess what? Phones got better. They are insanely good. If you think of technology as an S curve, you think of that middle part of the S, the kind of a sideways, kind of a little slanted S. The middle part of the S is when things get a lot better, and then at the top of the S, it's when the technology matures. So the phone this year isn't that much different than the phone last year. They've kind of matured, and they're really, really, really good right now. Remember when battery life used to be a hell of a big issue? It's not nearly as big of an issue anymore. Remember how slow they used to be? Now they're fast. The camera's excellent. It's insane what they can do. So, and he says this about early blockchains: strengths, provable trust guarantees. Provable trust guarantees. That's the biggest strength. That is the Pandora's box that we open that I think is going to be exceptionally powerful these next couple decades. Dude, this could take 20 years. I don't know. All I do know is there is something here, and I'm very interested. So what are the weaknesses of blockchains right now? Scalability and user experience. Yeah, they can't scale right now. I think Ethereum can do 7 transactions per second. Visa does thousands in a second. 7 transactions per second, it's just not going to cut it. But there are different things being worked on that's going to allow those to get a hell of a lot faster. And what you'll see is what was very interesting in the Bitcoin community. What you'll see, it's crazy that people they'll turn their nose up at anything. And I love Bitcoin. I think it's a very interesting. I think it's awesome. I think it absolutely has a future. But I'm also interested in other cryptocurrencies. I'm interested in Ethereum. I'm interested in other experiments. Just because they do different things. It's not that Bitcoin has a higher market cap and therefore it's better than everything else. No. These cryptocurrencies do different things. So I'm going to quote Ben DiFrancesco, guy I've been following on Twitter, and he said this recently. He says, "It remains baffling to me that smart people believe after we invented digital scarcity, unstoppable code, and immutable data, that the only thing we're going to use all that for is transacting, and what's more, transacting with just a single asset. Bitcoin opened up Pandora's box, and we can do more than just have basically a digital version of gold. If you look at real gold today, most people don't come in contact with it very much. Federal governments have it. Central banks have it. Maybe if you're super wealthy, maybe you have bars locked up somewhere. Maybe you're invested in a gold ETF or something like that. It doesn't really come into. It's still very important for the world. It's still a store of value. But if you think of it, even if Bitcoin did that, it would still be in the background. There's other things we can do here that, and I think that's a very possible route. That Bitcoin kind of stays in the background, and people trust it as a store of value. And it has a lot of trust, but there's other things that we can do with these cryptocurrency networks. So I also want to point out one more thing. And this is from Chris Dixon's presentation. He says this: we take it for granted that in the physical world we own stuff, but in the digital world we don't. In the digital world, users can really own a domain name, only really own a domain name in a cryptocurrency, even a domain name that you can get that stolen from you. Cryptocurrency, you have the keys. No one can touch that. It's taken for granted that the things we post on Google, the things we post on Facebook, even the music that we listen to, we don't own it. Even if in the days when you used to buy it, 99 cents, what you did was you bought the right to listen to it. You didn't own it. So he thinks ownership, actually owning a house, actually owning a car, actually owning the trees in your front yard, actually owning your property is going to move to the digital world where you're going to own your data. He thinks we're going to move to that again. We have this world, and we currently live in this world where we don't own our data. It scares me. Think of how much power Google has. If Google wanted to, if they just deleted my Google account, that would screw me in a lot of ways. That would screw a lot of people in a lot of ways. These platforms have an immense amount of power. I think we're going to shift away from that. I think we're going to shift back to actually digital Fukin ownership. So that's Fukin cryptocurrency. Little riff on that. I'm going to keep doing the show. I want to keep it under 60 minutes in the future. And I'm going to riff on one more thing before we go. This airs every Saturday, noon Eastern, and I'm going to start doing separate interviews outside of the live show, and those will be released on on the No Gradient channel. You can follow me on Twitter at Dixie Lucas, and I appreciate everyone. Appreciate you joining on this. I want to riff on one more thing. I sometimes, and this isn't about cryptocurrency. This is why I riff a lot about. I think a lot in my head about, okay, fuck, life's tough, right? Life's tough. You think about, oh, why am I not happy all the time? And, everyone has those moments where you just, like, a few seconds during the day, you're like, oh no, everything's meaningless. My life is useless, blah, blah, blah. If you don't, oh, well, I do. I know that. Everyone's like, everyone has those moments where they get really down, shit like that. And I was thinking about this. I think, and I'm not saying I invented this shit, but I think that things are hard. Life is hard in a lot of ways. Listen, it's hard because there's good out there. It's hard because there are things that will make us happy. Now, if we just fucking popped out of the uterus, we popped out, we looked around, we said, oh, this world sucks, everything's bad, nothing's good in it. That's on some level, it's a pretty easy existence on some level, right? You look around, oh, there's nothing good around here. It's just, imagine it just a hellscape. No one's nice to anyone. There's nothing interesting being built. Everyone's just walking around. It's you look around and say, oh, okay, that wouldn't be that hard to live. I mean, obviously it'd be a nightmare to live in that world, but what's hard about our world today, and what's hard about, I think, life in general, is that when you pop out of the womb, there's a whole fucking, there's so much you can fucking do in this world, that weighs on you. I know it weighs on me. I look at all the possible opportunities, all these things I can do, and it's like, damn, that is why I think a lot of things are hard. I know I can go do this thing. I know that if I do well in this podcast, that I can make it something because I have the opportunity to, because we have the internet and we have a global audience. The bar has been raised for in so many ways in 2020 that it puts a lot of pressure on you. So I think if you flip it like that and say, there's the reason that things are hard, the reason that you're like, oh, this doesn't feel right, is because there is opportunity, because you can do more, because there's other cool things there's many cool things you can do with your life, and that on one hand, on one level, is absolutely paralyzing. Choice paralysis. There's so much you can do. Scare. What should I do? I don't know what I want to do. You always hear people say, especially in college, what do you want to do? I don't know. It's absolutely paralyzing, and that's okay to feel that way. Flip it though. Flip it. Be like, this is an honor to feel paralyzed by this. I'm paralyzed because there is so much opportunity. There's so much I can do. There is so much good in this world that you can go reach out and grasp, that you can take for yourself. There's so much good you can give to other people, and there's some pressure in that. But if you just view it like that, oh, that's why I feel pressure, because there is good. I wouldn't feel pressure if there was only bad. I would just be, whatever, it is what it is. Maybe in a lot of ways it'd be a hell of a lot easier life. You'd be like, there's nothing good to grab in this world. Screw it. There's pressure because there is good. So I encourage you, think about it that way. Go get that good, and be okay if you go easy on yourself. If you're not feeling that great, go get that good. Go get that good, and understand that you feel that pressure because there is so much good and beauty and love and fucking technology and fucking relationship. There's so much in this world, in this globalized world. Go out and take it. Don't be paralyzed by it. Don't be so hard on yourself. This is Dick Lucas signing off. This has been a pleasure. I hope I hit under 60 minutes. This was epic. Love you all. Thanks for tuning in.